Yes, sir. I will hit the record button.
All right, here we go.
Yes, we are.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the District Board of Trustees meeting for Seminole State College. We are going to get started. It's September 21st, 2020 for a virtual meeting of the Board of Trustees. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead and lead. Bob, you want to go ahead and lead us in the pledge?
Yes, please. You join me in the pledge? Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That is one of the hardest things to do in tandem on Zoom, I'll have you know, is doing the pledge in tandem. So it's a lot easier in person for sure. So thank you for leading, Bob. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, public comment. There isn't anyone signed up for comment on any non-agenda items or public comment. If there is any, we will let you know when we get to the agenda. Cheryl informs me none at this time. So we'll go ahead and move into the We Change Lives student recognition portion of the meeting. And Kurt Esser, Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, will introduce student Edgar Alvarez, general education major and Raider baseball player.
Mr. Chairman, Kurt is
Yes.
not in the meeting yet.
Okay.
He has not joined us.
Okay, well, we can hold on that. Frank, I saw Frank signed in. We can go to the equity spotlight, and I'll introduce that if that would work. We'll go ahead and move to the faculty spotlight. So Frank Bongioni, the Associate Vice President of the School of Academic Foundations, will introduce Dr. Susan Ayton, the Adult High School Mathematics Professor. Frank?
Thank you, Chairman Howard, board members, and Dr. Lorenz. It's an honor to introduce Dr. Susan Ayton and briefly outline a few of her many contributions to Seminole State College, the School of Academic Foundations, and the education profession. Dr. Ayton first joined the faculty at Seminole State in 2011 as a math professor in the adult high school and an expert in educational technology. For the last decade, she has been the leader in fully integrating technology into every classroom and across the curriculum. In 2016, she joined the labor management team representing faculty. She still serves on that committee, working to create a collaborative relationship between faculty and management in the interest of student success. In 2017, she earned a doctorate in education. Appropriately, her dissertation entailed a qualitative study examining the barriers that adult learners encounter when they attempt to re-enter education and complete a course of study. Her knowledge has been enormously helpful as we examine options to improve adult education at Seminole State. In 2018 and 2019, using her expertise, Dr. Ayton presented at the Future of Education Technology Conference. In 2019, she was the leader, co-presenter at an amazing 8 sessions. However, of all of Dr. Ayton's contributions, the most recent is perhaps the most appreciated. On Friday, March 13th, the decision was made to close Seminole State for 1 week and move all instruction online or remote. There were professors in the adult high school and throughout academic foundations who had never taught online and were unfamiliar with the software and technology available. Dr. Ayton volunteered to be the go-to for those professors. She spent countless hours tutoring fellow faculty on virtual operations, guiding them as content was moved to Canvas, instructing them on supplemental software, and disseminating best practices. She was central to a successful reopening on Monday, March 23rd. In some instances, she even sat in on a few of her colleagues' classes to troubleshoot until they were able to confidently move forward. When most needed, as she has done in the past, Dr. Ayton responded to the call for help. In conclusion, Dr. Ayton is a dedicated teacher and a valued colleague. As a lead math professor in the adult high school, she is a positive and respected team player who listens thoughtfully to others' viewpoints and responds constructively to suggestions and inquiries. She willingly assumes shared responsibility for the success of academic foundations and its students. Whenever a challenge arises, Dr. Ayton does not hesitate to join the team effort to ensure the present and future success of Seminole State College. Her commitment is truly appreciated. May I present Dr. Ayton?
Hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Frank. I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Ayton, and as you've heard, I teach math in the adult high school. I rely heavily on technology to try to support our students because our students are very high need. And so even prior to COVID shutting us down, I was integrating Canvas in all of my face-to-face courses, and I was also teaching online. So the transition was actually quite easy for me because I was already using all of those tools. So I was able to spend that time focusing on the other faculty and helping them rather than having to spend a lot of time setting up my own courses to be online. I integrate video, and so I showed some faculty how to record their screens so that they could make videos to present to the students. I taught a few faculty how to use their web cameras, how to use some of the Mimeo Studio tools that we have in the high school, the tablets and the cameras, the document cameras. And helped them to set up their Canvas courses to be easy to navigate for the students. Part of the reason I knew how to do that was because I did the instructional design certification here at Seminole State that we offer, and that was very helpful in learning how to best manage a Canvas course. Presenting at FETC was an amazing honor to be selected, especially to be selected to do 8 workshops in 1 year. My co-presenter and I actually got a lot of steps on our Fitbits that year, but we presented STEAM integration and supporting at-risk students, classroom apps that you can incorporate for students that don't have access to their own technology, students that don't have laptops or tablets, things like clickers. And that information, of course, I also made available to all of my colleagues. And recently, I even learned how to do a picture-in-picture to where I appear in the very bottom corner of the Zoom screen, and then there's this chalkboard behind me. And so I'm tiny in the corner, and I can write on the chalkboard during a Zoom session with the students so I can live teach them. And I sent out a tutorial video to faculty so that they could learn how to do that as well, because it's really nice to have the live writing, but also, they can still see you in the corner, so you can still make that personal connection. Whereas if you just have a screen, you kind of lose that. So I wanted to make sure everybody else also knew how to do that. So I sent out a tutorial on how to do that as well. And technology is kind of my thing. I think that especially with today's students, it's very important that we use technology because that's what they grew up with. And so that's what they expect. And they are digital natives, so they're very familiar with all this technology. So it's important for us to keep up with it too, so that we can keep up with them and meet them where they are. And that's kind of what I've been doing. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, Dr. Ayton, thank you. Thanks for talking about all that you do. Any questions for Dr. Ayton, or in regards to all of that is amazing, especially in today's time with everything going on, and having that ability to innovate in the classroom is so critical. Is there any of the board members like to ask a question?
I just want to say thank you. I know it took a lot of work and a lot of effort, and everyone I know is scrambling all over in every area. It certainly wasn't just Seminole State, and it wasn't just education. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? So thankfully for people like you and every organization and industries across the country, there were leaders who stepped up and were willing to help. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, of course, thank you.
Absolutely.
Chair, if I could just add too, I want to say thank you for pivoting. We've all pivoted the past few months, and the only suggestion I might have for Dr. Lorenz and your team is to make sure that we have some sort of an archival of all of these videos that have been created and will be created. So as we change staff and move forward into the future with whatever will become another new normal again, that everybody has access to the same kind of quality networking and training and coaching that Dr. Ayton has offered to our current staff. So thank you again.
Yes, thanks, Trustee Coleman. Yeah, Dr. Ayton, I was going to say that whether we're in the midst of a pandemic or we're, back to somewhat what we call normal, what you've done is really taken the ability to move generations, not only of our students that are there, but also our faculty forward in order to be more innovative, to connect with students, whether that's face-to-face, which we hope one day we'll all be back to, or whether it's through remote learning and being more innovative and connecting, because we do live in a world, whether in the middle of a pandemic or not, having to, have those skill sets to move forward is so important. And thank you for all that you've done for those students and bringing them success, because it's so important. So thank you. Yes. I think that, any other questions? Anything for Dr. Ayton? No?
Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to me talk about tech.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ayton. Thank you, Frank.
And I think I saw Kurt's name pop up here somewhere.
You did. Yes. Kurt Esser, is he here?
Yes.
Director of Intercollegiate Athletics. You're going to introduce Edgar Alvarez, a baseball player.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
We could have used the last speaker in here for about the last 5 or 10 minutes. We were having issues here, and I apologize. I'm normally pretty good at technology. In fact, I was thinking about having this presentation out at the Jack, our baseball field, because Edgar is left the training room about a half hour ago, and he's about 15 minutes late for practice, but everyone understands, and we're excited for this opportunity. A few years ago, athletics had the same opportunity to introduce one of our amazing student athletes, and Stevie Ames, one of our softball superstars, spoke to this board, and I wanted to let everybody know she's now a nurse for Advent Health. And she, along with about 10 of her other former student athletes, are featured on our athletic website. All these individuals and many former Raiders student athletes were on the front line of the fight against the pandemic. And if you haven't had the chance to read those articles, I encourage you to do so. It's great hearing how appreciative those young men and women were of their time here at Seminole State, and certainly enjoyed their athletic careers here as well. The pandemic interrupted an amazing year for Raider athletics, but we did happen to finish strong in several areas. We finished with a 3.2 GPA for our department, and that's the 5th time out of the last 6 semesters we've been above a 3.0. Even with the shortened time, we did over 700 hours of community service. We hosted the inaugural Grow Raiders 5K, which I think a few of you were out at, and that benefited both athletics and Grow of Central Florida. And that's not to mention the seasons that ended. Our women's golf team was #1 in the country at the time, and our softball team was 28-1 and ranked in the top 10 in the nation. Our baseball team had just taken 2 out of 3 against a fierce rival, St. John's River, and really felt like we were hitting our strides in all those areas. Now I'd like to turn it over to our featured speaker, Edgar Alvarez. Very quiet individual last year. I didn't know his path to Seminole State. I did watch him at the plate and in the field, and his athletic achievements had led him to an excellent scholarship offer from Nicholls State in Louisiana. He's one of the first of our student athletes to commit or have that opportunity to commit to a 4-year for this year. He's weighing all his options, but Seminole State and his hard work have given him those options. I did send Edgar a few questions to prep on because I wanted him to highlight what he loved about Seminole State besides just our baseball team and hopefully our athletic director. And so he's going to speak now for just a few moments on his experience here at Seminole State.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Welcome, Edgar. Sorry you're missing practice. I know how hard that is. So thanks
no big deal.
for joining us, though, and talking to us. We appreciate you being here.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. So I'm from, my name's Edgar Alvarez. I'm from Orlando, Florida, where I was born and raised. I actually, I went to Boone High School, pretty much 5 minutes from downtown Orlando. Some of the things, I experienced some hardships in high school. The two main ones being the passing of my father my sophomore year, and then the passing of my grandmother my junior year. Today is actually 4 years since the day my dad passed away, so it's a very important day for me. Those are definitely two of the hardest things I've ever gone through high school, but at the same time, it is something that definitely motivates me each and every day to be better at all aspects of life. I heard about Seminole State through some of my coaches. I heard great things about the school. I came on a visit and it felt like somewhere I wanted to be. The coaches felt like a great fit. The former players that I spoke to said only good things about the school, and everything about the atmosphere just felt right. Another reason I chose Seminole State is because of how close it is to home. It's only about a 30-minute drive back home. And family is something that that means a lot to me. And for my family to be able to come and watch games, obviously probably not this year, but as far as last year goes, they were able to come to some games rather than having to make some further drives than that were possible. But other than the baseball, I really enjoy the atmosphere here at the school. Last year, I know going around campus was great. The faculty and staff were great. It gave you a feeling that everybody wanted you to succeed, which is something you don't always get everywhere you go, which is something I really appreciated from everybody. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, your face disappeared for a minute, but now you're back.
Okay,
all good.
Awesome. So another thing I wanted to go over was just one of my professors I had last year, Professor Boyd, who teaches speech communications. I just wanted to give a little shout out to him or whatever, but all of my life I've struggled kind of with public speaking, obviously something like this. But I feel like he did a great job creating a comfortable atmosphere in the classroom to kind of help me get over that fear that I had of, talking in front of people or talking in classes or talking in large groups. And I feel like without him, I probably wouldn't have accepted doing the meeting, actually. As far as after my baseball career, I hope to find a job using the AA I get from here, as well as the degree I plan on getting from whatever university I attend. I'm not exactly sure which route I want to go with that job, but I feel that Seminole State has done more than enough preparing me to do so. One more thing I'd like to mention is how lucky I feel to have found Seminole State, or in other words, how they found me. Towards the end of my senior year, it kind of started to feel like I wasn't going to be able to go to college. Schools weren't really looking at me baseball-wise, and part of me started to lose hope on achieving one of my greatest goals, which was going to school. Because of my family situation, we're never really a very wealthy family. So for me, with my mom, it was kind of more like, if you get a scholarship, you can go to school. If not, it's going to be really tough to do so. But some of my high school coaches reached out to some of the coaches here at Seminole State and set up a visit. And after the visit, I took a tour around campus and obviously had a workout at the field. And the coaches offered me a scholarship. And I'll never forget going back in the car and me and my mom sharing one of the greatest moments probably of my life when I got to tell her they gave me the opportunity, which is something I'll forever be thankful for Seminole State. As much as I wanted to play baseball, my highest goal was always just to go to college. I know I am the first person in my family to attend college, which is something that I always wanted to achieve since I stepped foot. Even in middle school, it was something that I was thinking about. And now my higher goal is just to be the first person in my family to graduate from college, which is something that I know would mean a lot to me and a lot to my family, as well as just being a role model for my younger brother. I know he means a lot to me, and just kind of leading by example would be something that meant a lot to me. So that's something I definitely want to achieve.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you for sharing your story. Any questions comments for Edgar?
Edgar, you did a great job. You must have got an A+ in your speech class. On to the other important information. What position do you play, and what's the team look like this year?
This year I'm going to be playing first base. I'm super excited about the team. I thought we got some great cups. We got some awesome guys on the team. A lot of talent on this team, and I think we'll be more than ready in the spring to start winning some ball games. So I'm very excited.
Great. Well, we wish you continued success, and thanks for missing some of your practice today.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You did a great job again. I couldn't tell. It looks like you've been speaking all along before, so you had a fear before. It surely doesn't show. Great job in what you do, and continue reaching for the stars.
Yes, sir.
One thing, obviously, your passion is baseball, and education is, I guess, goes along right with it. You're doing both, and I applaud you for that. But just keep on doing what you love doing, and keep on studying. Don't stop there. You'll see that the sky's the limit, and anything that we can do to make sure your future is bright, you can count on us. Great job.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, Edgar, thanks for joining us and sharing your story and your path to Seminole State. It's a great story, and certainly our hearts are with you for your dad and grandma today as you remember him and do. But go out there and do what you do, and do it hard, and honor both of them. So, and we'll be looking for you in the spring. We'll get out to some games and look for you in the spring. But thanks for coming today and taking some time out of your day, and you better get back to practice. You probably got
sir, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Edgar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edgar. Bye-bye. All right. President's report. Madam President.
Thank you.
Try to top those two.
I don't think I can top them, but I am.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
I'm starting with a positive headline though, and you can guess what it is. On September 17th, Seminole State College was awarded the National Advancing Diversity Award by the American Association of Community Colleges. You might recall, this is the 4th time that we were a finalist for this prestigious award, and we won. Finally. Of course, this type of recognition is not earned overnight. This award reflects the work so many faculty and staff at the college have contributed to over the years in our classrooms, student services, employment and professional development activities, our business practices as a college, and community relations. It also reflects the enduring commitment of this Board of Trustees and the college as a whole to equity and educational outcomes for all of our students. I want to give special thanks to Janet Balanoff, our Associate Vice President for Equity and Title IX, for her leadership. Turning to our enrollment update. As you saw in item 3A in today's agenda, the college reached its annual enrollment goal for 2019-20. After a sluggish start in the fall 2019 semester, we were able to meet our target through the efforts of student affairs and others across the college. So for spring 2020, we were 2.2% ahead of target. And in summer 2020, we were 2.1% ahead. Those summer numbers are not totally final yet, but they're very close to final. As everyone knows, enrollment for the current term has been a challenge. As of today, we are behind 10.4% overall as compared to this same point last year. The move to virtual services has been particularly challenging for the non-credit and academic foundation students. That enrollment is actually down about 31%, which impacts the overall enrollment number, pulls it down. However, we are only down right now 7.3% in lower division credit enrollment, which makes up the bulk of our tuition-driven revenue. So I'm happy to say that we have made up a lot of ground thanks to the efforts of Vice President Craig's rapid enrollment team, the targeted campaigns developed and deployed by marketing and communications, as well as the efforts of employees across the college who have rallied and pitched in. Just 2 months ago, the enrollment numbers were significantly worse. The rapid enrollment team includes individuals from across student affairs, institutional effectiveness and research, marketing and communications, and more. Each has played a significant role in turning these numbers around. You might recall institutional effectiveness and research implemented an enrollment survey to give enrollment services team the information and tools to improve the conversion rate from applicant to enrollment for our first time in college cohort. During the month of August, that conversion rate was 60%, which is well above anything we have seen at Seminole State before and well above the national benchmarks for state and community colleges. These efforts continued into the fall term as marketing promoted 12-week and B-term classes. Academic Affairs has been working diligently to add capacity to these sessions to provide access for students to get started on their post-secondary careers. As we have said again and again, momentum matters for completion and success, and you can't gain momentum as a student if you don't get started. The RN to BSN program provides an example of the effectiveness of targeted marketing and enrollment campaigns. Lynn Chamberlain, professor and program manager for nursing, reported that the program experienced 70 new admissions and a 60% conversion rate, an increase over all prior semesters. As you know, this is a relatively new program. Marketing ran a campaign focused on RN to BSN enrollments over a number of months and worked with Professor Chamberlain to provide compelling content on their web pages. Michelle Cox, Assistant Director of Baccalaureate Admissions, and her team brought the applications through to enrollment. It was a great team effort. There's been a lot of discussion in publications and webinars that I've been engaged with lately about how COVID-19 is accelerating changes that were already happening. With the onset of the virus, changes that might have taken 5 years are now happening over 5 months. We're experiencing similar phenomena here at the college. We knew, for example, that we wanted to modernize and streamline our application and onboarding process for students. This need for change has been accelerated. Our recent experiences have accelerated our understanding of the barriers students face while navigating our onboarding process. Vice President Craig, in partnership with Vice President Heyman, has convened a task force from all segments of the college to improve our processes, and they have already identified 11 fixes to implement in time for spring. We've also collaborated with Seminole County Public Schools to identify technological glitches experienced, which was preventing the timely transmission of high school transcripts. And of course, we will keep their leadership apprised of the work of the task force in our regular monthly meetings or more often if needed. The budget situation we face is both daunting and challenging. We built our budget for this fiscal year on two basic assumptions: that state appropriations would remain the same, and we would experience a 3.3% enrollment gain. I fear that neither of those assumptions will hold true. As I've previously reported, we face a potential cut to our state funding of up to 8.5% for this fiscal year and up to 10% for next fiscal year. In the recent presentation of the 3-year revenue forecast for Florida, anticipated revenues were revised downward by $3.4 billion for the current fiscal year and by $2 billion for 2021-22. All of the financial outlooks seem to agree that it will take Florida multiple years to recover from this economic crisis. Last week, you may have seen in the news, the Board of Governors convened and developed examples of strategies they might employ for both the 8.5 and 10% possible reductions. We here at Seminole State are working diligently on our own plan to address these significant budget shortfalls in both the current and upcoming fiscal years, and we'll bring that information forward in a future board meeting. I want to update you on the CARES Act. We have several streams of activity. The disbursement of CARES Act funds to students is ongoing. We're happy to report that for the 2019-20 spring and summer terms, $3,128,950 in grants were dispersed to 4,592 eligible students. So far this fall, $1,792,000 has been distributed to 3,585 eligible students who are enrolled either in the full term or A-term classes. Additional distributions will be released to eligible students who are enrolled only in the 12-week and B-term classes. It is our sincere hope that these federal dollars serve to mitigate the impact that the pandemic has had on these students and their families. The college currently has 3 initiatives in progress for new and current students who've been impacted by COVID-19, which are supported by different CARES Act funding streams. On September 16th, we were notified that we have been awarded $1,160,778 as part of the Florida Department of Education's Rapid Credentialing, Economic Recovery, and Prosperity Initiative. These funds were made available through the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, or the GEAR. This project is dedicated to helping students complete certifications in specific areas that will assist with finding and maintaining employment. In the fall term, 166 students are participating in the program, which will pay for tuition, fees, books, and instructional costs. The Rapid Skills Fall certificates are available in the following disciplines: computer programming specialist, graphic design support, network security, virtualization, IT client specialist, associate project management, the Law Enforcement Academy, and corrections. In the spring, an additional 150 students will have the opportunity to complete certificates at no cost in the additional disciplines of accounting specialist, business specialist, office specialist, EMT, and associate project management. The second initiative, valued at over $455,000, is with Seminole County government. This partnership will provide 90 Seminole County students the ability to complete specialist certificates in accounting, business, or office by the end of the calendar year. The project funds tuitions, fees, books, and instructional costs. Included in the plan is the required $290,000 match for the Rapid Skills program that I mentioned earlier through the state. Additionally, the Seminole County Initiative makes available $40,000 for our Small Business Development Center and $20,000 for our new continuing community education venture to assist Seminole County residents with skills needed for employment who choose not to pursue a credit program. The third initiative is through a collaboration with CareerSource Central Florida to provide workforce training. This project provides funding for Seminole State students who are Orange County residents impacted by COVID-19 and will graduate in either the fall or spring term. The students must register for the spring term prior to the end of the calendar year. Tuition fees and book costs are covered. So we hope that all of those will provide new opportunity for students. You might recall that the college was invited to participate in the Florida Pathways Institute, which is hosted by the Department of Education Student Success Center. We are a member of a 13 college cohort who will engage in statewide conferences and have assigned coaches to assist us in implementing a guided pathways framework to promote student completion and success. The program was supposed to kick off last spring, but of course it was postponed. But I'm excited to tell you that our team will be virtually attending the kickoff meeting tomorrow and Wednesday. It's virtual. During this two-day event, participants will discuss topics such as guided pathways as a catalyst for transformative change, measuring the impact of guided pathways reform efforts, metrics for monitoring student progress towards completion, change management and guided pathways, and mapping next steps for pathways implementation. Concurrently with this effort, Seminole State is implementing Navigate, a system designed by EAB to facilitate guided pathways for students. It will also help students and advisors more easily track pathway progress, improve early alerts, and strengthen connections between students and advisors, faculty, and student support areas. Navigate will provide the college and our students important tools that will help us realize our pathways vision. So our implementation team has been hard at work. Data loads and validations between PeopleSoft and Navigate are underway with expectations that Seminole State will get the first look at a working version of Navigate this semester. Following checkouts and training with Navigate team members in late 2020, plans are to implement Navigate with a small group of students, faculty, and advisors in spring 2021, with expansions to other student support areas in summer 2021, and then full implementation to all post-secondary students next fall. More information and announcements are planned for late this semester after the implementation team gets an opportunity to check out a working system. So the college is moving into the next phase of reopening, turning up that dimmer switch, to use the metaphor from the Department of Education's report this summer. In early October, music and fine arts classes will return to campus. And with the start of the B term on October 19th, additional science lab classes will be held on campus. And of course, this will necessitate an expanded physical presence of staff on each campus to serve and support these students and faculty. The development of the spring schedule is currently underway, and it is our intent to offer students more options for on-campus learning and support this spring. The Joint Action Committee on Race and Social Justice is continuing its work, meeting every other week. And we have two primary goals for the fall semester. First, we're committed to providing opportunities for personal and professional development and discussion through a wide variety of virtual events. Second, we have developed a procedure to create a new standing committee to sustain and direct this work moving forward. I would like to thank Professor Scott Freeman for his recent workshop, A Time to Heal, Conducting Conversations That Bring Understanding. I would also like to thank Jan Lloyd and Student Life and the Student Government Association leadership for providing additional workshops and forums as well. Student Life has also been hard at work raising awareness about civic responsibilities as part of our membership in Campus Compact. 2 students have taken on the role of campus election fellows and are coordinating virtual voter registration drives and educational events. To begin, they recently hosted Constitution Day. They began by showing a quick 6-minute video presentation on the Constitution and its relation to voting rights given by Seminole State professor Samantha Huckstra. Then Chris Anderson, supervisor of elections, took the floor to address any questions. More of their upcoming educational events include Your Voice, Your Power, Your Vote, My Voice and My Vote as a Student, highlighting the deadline to register to vote, constitutional amendments in the November 2020 ballot, and real talk conversation about voting and election results, which will take place the evening after Election Day. As you know, the college has partnered with Heart of Florida United Way since 2015 for our Destination Graduation Program, which provides emergency assistance and 211 resources to students for non-academic needs such as housing, rental, utility assistance, transportation needs, and other unexpected emergencies. As you can imagine, with COVID-19, we have seen an increase in requests for help. The program started initially through a grant with the Lumina Foundation, and when that ended, Truist Foundation, formerly SunTrust, provided a grant to Heart of Florida United Way to support keeping students enrolled in college. The grant covered the cost of the staff who work on our campuses, as well as funding to replicate this program nationally. Although that grant is now ending, Truist Foundation has again granted the Heart of Florida United Way $249,231 to ensure operational continuity for destination graduation for at least the next 2 years. Within the funds identified, there's $15,000 for direct assistance each year. Over the past 5 years, destination graduation has served close to 2,000 students, and the re-enrollment rates for the students who receive financial assistance is about 7% higher compared to other low-income students at Seminole State, which demonstrates the positive impact a small amount of funding can do to help students stay in college. So we're very grateful to the Truist Foundation. This summer, we had a new program called the Raider Achievement Program, and it was developed to support the success of recent SCPS high school graduates pursuing AA degrees and transfer as they transition to college. Seminole State recognized the unprecedented challenges incoming freshmen were facing due to the COVID-19 crisis. The goal of the program was to prepare students for the rigors of college by developing skills in core academic areas, identifying campus resources, and establishing clear academic pathways to improve retention, persistence, and completion. Students enrolled in 2 B-term courses free of charge. Each class was assigned a peer mentor from SGA to support students, as well as embedded tutors or librarians for the content area course. Each enrolled student was assigned an advisor who assisted with the creation of individualized educational plans. Students also participated in virtual events on topics such as being successful in online courses, leadership, career assessment and major selection, developing a growth mindset, and getting involved in student life. While this was a pilot program of only 37 students, there are plans to expand the program every summer. The results were outstanding. The GPA of the 33 students who completed the program was 3.29, and these students enrolled this fall for a total of 410 credit hours, most of them enrolling full-time. So we're really excited about the success of the program and anxious to expand it next year. Now on to some student news. Congratulations to student Sophia Scott, who won the American Institute for Certified Public Accounts Legacy Scholarship Program. The program helps students pay for college and provides opportunities to succeed in the profession and to be even more competitive for future employment. Funded by the AICPA, their foundation, and partners, the Legacy Scholar Program consists of 5 scholarship categories, awarding between $3,000 and $10,000 per student. Sophia was awarded $10,000. Sophia is an African-American student who is also a single mom caring for her special needs son, and she has faced some financial challenges. This award covers the rest of her tuition and book expenses while she finishes up her degree. In addition to the award, Sophia was also hired by the James Moore accounting firm. So congratulations to Sophia, and many thanks to the accounting faculty members who provided her support as well as references for both the scholarship award and her employment search. 2 of Seminole State's information technology program students won scholarships from the Association for Latino Professionals for America. Joel Figueroa completed both AA and AS degrees in information systems technology. He's now pursuing the Bachelor of Science in Information Systems Technology and is currently active in the BSIST Cyber program. Prashiv Shanglanal transitioned to an AA General Business degree, but is also taking computer programming courses towards a certificate. He's looking to merge business and technology to solve business problems. Additionally, both students have received interest from several companies they met at the recent career convention. So congratulations to Joel and Prashiv for their accomplishments. And on to employees. Our congratulations go to Amy Kirkland, Director of Seminole State Center for Business Development, on being named Empower's Volunteer of the Year. Empower is a leading nonprofit mental health and child well-being organization dedicated to empowering the lives of those in need by offering personal attention, counseling, assistance, and inspiration to help them reach their full potential and achieve individual success. Amy is particularly committed to the current and former foster youth who live in the village, many of whom are Seminole State students. One of her many efforts is to help these young people celebrate the holidays, birthdays, graduations, and other important milestones. She also serves as a leader on the Village Council. Congratulations, Amy, and many thanks for giving your personal time to this organization. Craig Tidwell, Professor and Program Manager for Information Systems Technology, was interviewed for an article in Zippia on software engineering trends. Experts weigh in on what to expect in 2020. Craig offered such topics as general advice for a graduate just beginning their career, what technology he thinks will become more prevalent in the next 3 to 5 years, and what the enduring impact of the coronavirus pandemic might be on graduates. Congratulations, Craig. On September 11th, several executive team members and I attended a student life leadership retreat for Seminole State Emerging and Advanced Leaders. It was awesome. During the session, we shared our educational and professional backgrounds and leadership styles. We also had the opportunity to hear the students' perspectives on what they most appreciate about their Seminole State experiences, as well as areas in which we might be able to improve. They reflected on their outstanding professors who are empathetic and understanding, as well as passionate. They also said that Seminole State is warm, welcoming, and inspiring, and that they feel like they're part of a family here. Fortunately, we get to do this again on September 25th with another group of students, and I'm really looking forward to it. On September 16th, I attended the Orlando Economic Partnership's virtual advocacy trip to Washington, D.C. During the Zoom-in, the group met with Florida's representative Senate and congressional leaders to advocate for the priorities most important to the Central Florida region as we work to rebuild our local economy. On September 17th, both Trustee Lockhart and I had the chance to attend the Seminole County Legislative Update. I was asked to present an award to Senator David Simmons, honoring him for his nearly 20 years of service to the community. And of course, I jumped at the chance to do so. This was a great opportunity to not only honor Senator Simmons, but to share all the ways in which he's helped shape the college into the great institution it is today. And we will truly miss his leadership as he terms out of office. And finally, a reminder that a week from tomorrow, on Tuesday, September 29th, we will be holding our first ever virtual convocation. We look forward to having trustees join us for the State of the College, which will be live streamed from 9:30 to 10:45 a.m. and will include remarks from myself and Chair Howitt. And with that, my report is concluded.
Excellent.
Happy to take any questions, comments.
Any questions, comments? Very thorough.
Maybe too long, sorry.
No, excellent, excellent.
I actually pulled out my notepad so I could jot a couple things down.
I know.
Yeah. I do have a couple of questions about the transition to face-to-face.
Okay.
My sense is that some of those students that are still missing, who we would have anticipated enrolling, are probably not here because of the online component. That's my gut check. Any data to back that up. Is there a way that we can start advertising ahead of time and target those students to welcome them back to a face-to-face experience in the spring so that they know that it won't be another online episode?
Yes. Yes. So in the short term, we plan to survey current students and also reach out to those students who graduated from Seminole County Public Schools but did not attend, and those who may still be in the pipeline. So we're going to, tailor surveys to each of those groups so we can better understand what they want in the spring schedule and what may have prevented them from coming.
Okay.
As I said, with the spring schedule, we are creating more options for students. Many of them may be hybrids so that we can continue to adhere to CDC guidelines and all of that. But yes, we're trying to create options for students and better understand what they want. And at least students sort of vote with their feet. So I hope that when we create these options, we'll see some of those students who may be missing in action right now, prospective students coming in. And I know that online will still be a popular option, particularly for students who may be waiting to hear if they're going to be reemployed, those that may be furloughed, and they want to maintain that flexibility in their schedule. So we're going to do our best to strive to meet the needs of all of those different students.
Okay. I'm particularly concerned about your seniors from 2020. I feel like we've lost so much of that cohort, and I worry about the effects of that for years to come if we don't catch them now.
I completely agree with you. And Seminole County Public Schools has been very supportive in helping us get contact data for those students and contacting them and their families. So we're going to do that again with this survey and hope that that will reap some results. And then, of course, as you said, promote opportunity for spring.
Okay. Do we have an idea of the number of those students from 2020 that are essentially missing at this point?
It's in the ballpark of 1,000.
Okay. Big number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Some of them may have chosen to go elsewhere. We just know they didn't come here. So I don't want to say all 1,000 did not pursue post-secondary education. We need to sort of suss out those data now that now that the fall semester has started.
Right. Okay.
And Trustee Calderon.
I guess a follow-up to that question, of those thousands, since it is such a small number, I know you said we were reaching out. I'm assuming that's email. Is it also a personal telephone call? Because at this point in time, we might almost want to do a one-on-one, I hate to say for lack of a better term, sales presentation, but to let these students know how important it is. If they're not really paying attention to the emails, to me, that's not a good reach out. And with 1,000, you could divide that up with personal phone calls to people. And I know a lot of us get junk phone calls that we don't answer, but if it's a pleasant voice on the other side of the phone, they might, again, be willing to enter into that kind of discussion, because I too am very, almost a whole generation of kids that we might lose because they haven't engaged in higher ed, and the longer that they stay out, the harder it's going to be to have them come back in. If nothing else, success on individual classes, like years ago, if you remember, before Seminole County Public Schools mandated that all students take math their senior year in high school, we didn't have a lot of good success with college math once they enrolled. So I think the longer that they stay out of school, the harder it's going to be for us to get them to graduate in a timely fashion. And I know the public school systems around the country are open with a lot more students than even if we are at full capacity at Seminole State College. So I'm sure we can get very creative of how to have a safe campus to welcome as many students back as possible. Some thrive in an environment better than face-to-face, but some really need that relationship building in a face-to-face environment. And I know this college has a great task force looking at it, whether it be walking up one direction in stairwells and things like that. But I'd also suggest you reach out to the public school systems in the Tri-County area that they've already been doing this for a while with the face-to-face. Might have some good input to help.
In terms of reaching out to students and prospective students, we've had employees across the college working on that. Our limitation is only what the contact data that we have. Yeah.
Can I follow up to follow up? Would it be helpful to have someone from the high schools who may have been, it may be a familiar name or voice on the other end of the phone to help with those phone calls? I know that's asking a lot of employees of the K-12 district, but if these students haven't engaged with Seminole State yet, there may not be a connection there. But if they were to get a call, and this is really digging deep, I understand how deep this is, but if they were to get a call from their high school senior English teacher, or their coach or someone, if we could really drill down and figure out who these students are, I think we have to do everything we can to find them. I mean, not to be dramatic, but gosh, if nothing, I mean, where'd they go? I just really feel very responsible for figuring out how to somehow re-engage. And if they've made a choice and they're not coming to school for whatever reason and they're working or they've moved out of the area, okay, great. But if they're just languishing, anything we can do to help find them, I think would be really important. I don't know. That's the mom in me going, where are my kids?
Yeah. So I'm getting a message from Dr. Hammond that high schools and SCPS have asked to have our admissions folks come to their virtual meetings. So that's one way we're connecting. And I know that Johnny Craig and Laura Ross meet with the Seminole County Public Schools leadership on a regular basis and can certainly explore this option. I do kind of hate to put more work on them, but I know we're all concerned about this group of students. So we'll explore and see what we can come up with.
Also, if I may, a couple things, observations that may help, with this COVID world. And I remember going back to my days when I went to college. Maybe not to put more on the students. I know they got their plates full, but maybe create a program that gets students to tell other friends and families about enrollment, about their opportunities at Seminole State. I know you guys already do something like that, but I don't know, maybe create either a program, event, or something challenging them to bring each maybe a family member. In my case, I remember when I went to college, I actually got my two cousins to enroll too. So maybe it's kind of like, get the students that have pride within Seminole State and rate of pride to reach out to their family member who might not be doing something, who might be graduating, who's working but doesn't like what he's doing. Say, you know what? There's a good opportunity in Seminole State. Here, let me introduce you to somebody and do that. And then the second part would also to reach out to our legislative delegation and see if through their office, Scott Plakin, David Smith, Goff Marcel, and of course Senator Simmons, their aides can put out something about student enrollment and maybe engage their office to help bridging that gap as a constituent service type of thing. Those two things may be a couple ideas that we can throw out there. And their staff usually has a constituent list, and they can put out something on social media. Seminole State College is a good college, and if you want more information on enrollment, put you in contact. Use it as a constituent services tool to get.
And that would be a great channel also to promote our CARES Act related rapid credentialing programs.
Correct. And these guys,
thank you.
Their staff is really not doing much right now because the legislative session is not happening.
They're not busy with campaigning?
Well, the staff can be, not the staff. The legislative staff is working from home, and this might give them something to do as a channel bridging up forward that has nothing to do with campaigning.
Yeah, okay. That's a great suggestion. We'll pursue that for sure.
Good. Just quick question. I know that online learning isn't for every student, and we know that. We know that some really struggle. Are we monitoring the current students that we have that are completely online, making sure that they are successful, and maybe even looking at opening up face-to-face sections for those that aren't, that need the face-to-face that are with us right now? Because I'm concerned that at the end of the semester, we're going to have individuals that go, this is not what I pictured college. This is not for me. I'm going to take off until we go back to face-to-face, and just let them know that there is going to be opportunities to move, not just the certain ones, but use the dimmer switch and go up with some courses like math courses and other things that folks need individualized face-to-face attention regularly, and going through that process. Any movement on that end, Dr. Lorenz?
To some extent, yes, for the B term classes, but it will be more so in the spring term. So we have deployed our learning staff and other employees across the college who volunteered, who made personal phone calls to students who are new to online or who we're concerned about in the online environment in terms of academic success. And our academic support center has also really been engaged with our online students. And we adopted a new tool called Circle In, which is through the National Science Foundation and some other funders. And it is essentially kind of like a crowdsourcing tool for studying within sections, and gives an avenue for embedded tutors and our academic support center staff to get into classes and engage with students in the online environment. So we have those three measures in place, really trying to help promote the success of those students. Rally to register begins November 2nd, and that is the first wave of enrollment for spring. And it's focused on returning students. And during that campaign, we can really highlight the face-to-face options for students in the spring, so that they know that they have another option.
Is there any way that we could even survey students to see how they feel about that going into the spring? Because I think we can go out and recruit as many as we can get to come in, but if we're not kind of keeping those that we have, as you know, on the retention side, I don't want them to leave on one side because it's not working while we're bringing others in, to see how many would want to, and look at planning from a human resource. What do we need as far as on campus, but also surveying our faculty to see who would want to and would be interested in coming back face to face, and see if we can match up some of those classes. Maybe even if it's on a, you know, a section or two and a blend where they're doing both or something, just to have that as an option. I think it's important.
We do plan to survey the students, the returning, you know, continuing students, as well as potential new students that we can get contact information for. We'll survey both.
You know, faculty members, how many would be willing to come back or would want to come back?
I know Dr. Ross and the deans and AVPs are working with faculty on plans now. And I'm not sure if we plan another survey of employees or not. So far, we've been talking primarily about the student survey.
If students want to come back and faculty doesn't, we could, that lends itself to some challenges as well. So just want to make sure we're matching those.
Oh, and Dick says, yes, we are going to survey employees as well.
Okay.
Sorry, Tina.
Yes, go ahead, Tristan.
Because other than ADA requirements, correct? Because if they're a faculty member, they have to deliver instruction. And if we have, let's say, 90% of the students want face-to-face, we would need to get a commensurate amount of faculty back too.
Right. We'll have to flex and adapt to the needs of the students, yes.
It's interesting. While I didn't see the data firsthand from Seminole County Public Schools, but I did see it anecdotally on social media and what have you. There were far more faculty interested in coming back and teaching face-to-face than I would have thought. I was really very pleasantly surprised by that. And it almost seemed to self-level. I know there was a push, and Dr. Calderon, I'm speaking in your sandbox, but there was a push to get more teachers to be willing to teach virtually. I think it would be interesting to see if the tone has changed somewhat. I'm very concerned that if we don't get the classes back on campus that we need to have on campus to serve our customers, we're going to lose our customers. Mm-hmm. And as hard a message as it may be to hear for some folks, without customers buying our product, there's no job. And I would hate to see there be a mismatch of the wonderful opportunities and instruction and the team that we have here at Seminole State miss out and wind up having to, kind of pull back our offerings because we're not offering what our customers want. And I just think that's something we really need to start thinking long and hard about as a board of trustees moving forward, because we got to listen to our customer base. Mm-hmm.
And I think, we know a lot more now than we did in March in terms of how to best manage this whole situation and keep people safe. So we need to sort of use those lessons learned, use lessons learned in the K through 12 arena. But I will throw out a caveat. It may be that a large proportion of our students still want online classes, and we're just going to have to flex and adapt to where we see those enrollment trends. Again, something it's just anecdotal, but that we've heard is I might get my job back. I need to be able to, go back whatever schedule they give me. And that's also a real appeal to the online, completely online asynchronous type of class.
Yeah, I think we're going to see personally almost a split of the type of instruction that we're offering. I have one of our customers that lives in my house right now, and so I'm tracking him very closely, and I can tell you, online is not for him, and it is a challenge, and without a tremendous amount of grit and a mother standing over him, I'm not sure that given his choice, he would want to come back in the spring. It's just, and it's nothing against Seminole State. It's not about the professors he has. They're all wonderful. It's just the format and the type of learning, the environment that he needs. And there's a lot of him out there. So I think, again, we're going to wind up having to try to be all things to all people. And this world of instruction delivery is just going to be different moving forward. So I'm preaching to the choir, I know.
We're also looking into technology. Stop me if I've said this before, but we have 6 classrooms that we're going to equip with technology. So there could be students sitting in the class, looking at the instructor, and the instructor is being broadcast to students who are remote. So, if a student wanted to stay online but participate in that class with that professor, conceivably they could do so. And long term, this technology, I think, will help to serve, if we have an advanced math class at Oviedo, but it doesn't fill, but those students really need that math class and they really want it at Oviedo, this technology could facilitate filling that class with students either from another campus or online. So I think it has long-term value for us, even though in this moment, it's clear, we're doing it for this current need. So we're trying to be really creative about how we can try to be all things to all people. We know that we can never totally achieve that. We're not crazy, but we need to, use technology and other tools in our toolbox to try to reach all of our students.
Trustee Calder.
And I'm sure, Scott, you've seen this in Orange County Public Schools as well, but Dr. Heyman might want to speak with both of our folks because there's a lot of different technology platforms out there to deliver that kind of instruction. And we've lived through it now for a while that we have positive and negatives on many of them. And there are some that are very expensive and some that don't cost a thing and deliver just as well. So if there's anything we can do collaboratively from the K-12 system, and I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, Scott, but I'm sure your team would be willing to help as well, because I agree with Trustee Lockhart. There's a lot of students out there that really thrive in the face-to-face, and I do know, though, it's hard work for our instructors to deliver both simultaneously because they care so much about their students. So there's some tricks of the trade that have been learned. So hopefully we can avoid some of those pitfalls.
All right. Good discussion. So thank you. That was good to dive into that a little bit because I think those are all the concerns. Thanks for addressing it, Amy and Tina and Bob, because they're all concerns that we live with. We just have to articulate those concerns and get them out there because obviously we've never been down this path before, and we certainly know that our families haven't, and our students, either current or future, haven't. And so however we can best serve them.
And I will say we already have our eyes on next year's graduating seniors, and we have recruiters going into the high schools, and joining virtual meetings and doing whatever we can. So, you know, we're not losing sight of that next class either.
Right. 2021, right? Class of
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna give Joe Major a chance to kind of set up here. We're gonna take up the categorical consent agenda, but before we do, there is a presentation that goes along with item 5A, which is our annual financial report. We have to adopt it as part of the agenda, but there is an overview of what we have done over the course of the last year. And so we'll let Joe do the presentation before we take it up, and then we'll go ahead, instead of moving it off the agenda to the action item, then we'll take up the categorical consent agenda. So Joe, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone.
Recognized. Okay.
All right. Thanks for moving it for discussion. Okay, let me get the active window. There's a presentation on, let's see here. Let me find monitor 1. Okay. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. Press the wrong button. Close the presentation, but here we go. All right, so good afternoon. Just wanted to take a few moments to update the board on the results of operations as part of our annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 2020. And this is just a summary of the board packet with has more detailed numbers, more comparatives, not only to budget, but also from the prior fiscal year. That begins on page 98. And then also the comprehensive AFR that is in the state required format, that begins on page 107 and goes for a number of pages, about 50 pages. Okay, so have an agenda here just of some things we're going to touch on. And Dr. Lorenz already gave an enrollment update. The presentation you will see is in a similar format to how we present the budget. Of course, the focus is primarily on Fund 1 operations, but we'll give results of operations across all funds. And one thing to note is that this is the actual results of operations, again, for the fiscal year just ended. And, and then ultimately the state report, the version that goes to the state, you'll notice it is different in presentation. We do what is called business type activities. So all of the funds are combined into one reporting model, you know, with the statement of net assets, statement of changes in revenues and expenses and net position, traditional cash flows, of course, and then a whole slew of required note disclosures. So anyway, for those that have worked in city, county, and school boards, their presentation in the format is fund or discrete fund presentation. So my presentation is going to follow that. But again, wanted to point out the biggest difference from the AFR. All Florida college system institutions use what is called business type activities, again, with one single presentation of all funds in one column. Okay, and if at any point, if there's any questions, please feel free to chime in. I'm looking at some of my notes on screen, so I can't see you if you're trying to wave. I will take no offense. And so this right here is 2019-20 enrollment, and you can see at the time that this was done. This presentation is a few weeks old. This is where we were with the projection, and then this is the budget that we built the tuition revenue on. Okay, you'll recall this from the operating budget presentation. And just going through, this is where we see the changes of in enrollment by FT and division, so non-credit, lower division, and of course upper division being the years 3 and 4 of our baccalaureate programs. Dr. Lorenz in her report talked about enrollment and then the interplay of while you see an overall enrollment decrease, what affects us or things we take a look at from the seat I sit in is those that are fee paying, okay? And then specifically, you can see here, the lower division, there's a breakout here of where the changes are. PSV, those are traditional 2-year AS degrees. This here, I know it's hard to read, is EPI, Dev Ed, which is formerly college prep, and then AMP, which is traditional AA. So that stands for advanced and professional. All right, so now we're going to switch on to the actual results. And again, at a summary high level, the details that are related to that are actually on page 99 of the packet. So again, the 3 major categories of revenue: state funding, tuition and fees, and other revenue. Again, this is the operating fund. So this is Fund 1. And you can see here, we're actually, these slides are comparing the original budget as of July 1 of last year compared to the actual end of year results. Okay, so good news. In the fall 19 semester, when we had the decrease in enrollment, we took an accounting, extrapolated that, and said, wow, we are headed for some really dark waters. But great news with the enrollment turnaround for the spring term and then also for the summer term. You can see where we landed ultimately compared to the actual original budget compared to the actual year-end results. All right, state funding, only off by $25,000, some variation in industry certifications from what we budgeted. All right, tuition and fees, we did end up being a little bit down below budget, but nowhere near the $3 million or 2.7, 2.8 shortfall we thought in October of 2019. And other revenue, we're up a little bit. I wish you could say it was related to interest rates, but it's not because of where we are with the Fed funds rate right now. There was actually some losses related to some of the hurricane and sinkhole or tropical storm that carried over into this year, as well as some other revenues. All right, so net effect, you can see here the interplay. We were almost spot on. So on an $81 million budget, we only had a variance net, of course, of only $67,000 below, okay? Moving on to operating fund expenditures, again, the just grouping these up. Compensation, so salary and wages and benefits, of course, operating expenses, service contracts, office materials and supplies, other supplies, and the capital expenditures that we have in Fund 1 to contrast with Fund 7. Okay, so because of some of the things that we did related to COVID, there was actually reduced compensation expenditures, but also part of the work that we started back in the fall term to hold positions, to seriously consider which positions were important. Also, other members of the exec team came up with some other reorganization ideas to be more efficient, to improve processes, some other things that we've shared, and some of the ongoing projects, to work smarter, not harder, that Dr. Lorenz and the team have shared over the previous months. All right, so operating expenses, look at this. Our budget here, 16.1. We actually came in at year-end of $14.2 million. All right, so we had savings there. Of course, some of it is related to utilities, but also some of it is not doing certain things. Again, travel, obviously, but other things because we didn't have as many students on campus, nor employees. So, for example, some of the contracted services that we had in facilities, we didn't have to do. Also, I know other members of the executive team, if they could delay a purchase, they did postpone those. So great job to the team for really keeping track of the purse, keeping tight purse strings. And then capital expenditures, we were up a little bit, but again, this was just a very small amount of budget to handle those capital expenditures. So again, I'm telling you a lot of things that were in repetition from the budget presentation when these numbers were projected or estimates. Okay, so I want to spend a little bit more time on this one, and you can see the description. It's accounting adjustment, pension, OPEB, and accrued leave. All right, so wow, what is that? That's 5.7 unfavorable variance. Okay, so these are non-cash accounting adjustments, and you've heard me make the joke before that these are the Actuarials and Accountants Full Employment Act. All right, so what do these represent? These represent our portion of the state FRS plan. okay, and also a present value, to put it simply, of all of the future health and life insurance benefits for all retirees, as well as the outstanding accrued leave balances. Now, again, many of you work in public service, so you know that your agencies are having to do the same annual fiscal year and closing entries. And again, I don't know of any institutions that are actually setting aside trust funds because, again, this is a lot of money, but more importantly, all agencies, and we are included in that, we do a pay-as-you-go principle. So, you know, as we receive changes in the FRS rate from the state, we will continue to put that portion in and pay that annually. So a way to think about this is, if we were to, you know, over the next 30 years or 40 years, what is the present value of that in our portion of the entire statewide FRS? So this here is based upon a measurement date, all right? So generally June 30th, since the state of Florida follows the same fiscal year as us. And depending upon how the market is, literally at that date, right, that's the largest determining factor, okay? So you will see swings in our liability. And again, this is non-cash, this is on paper liability. But as we flow those through the entry, okay, we needed to show roughly a $6.2 million increase to our portion, all right? And I'm gonna get into how that is funded or reported on in the reserve section shortly, all right? But we need to, again, comply with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, is to make sure that we have perfect financial audits. Okay, so I'm going to continue through. So here's a summary of the operating fund results. Okay, again, revenues virtually flat. Oh, expenditures here. Oh, let me go back one slide. All right, so the main takeaway is, because of the hard work that we've done, and again, thank you, as just to echo what Dr. Lorenz said and the members of the board, thank you to the faculty and our staff for pivoting to transform the work environment and to help students continue to be successful in the current COVID situation. But some of these changes, the net effect of these three items, all right, we were almost $3 million favorable, okay, in the budget. Okay, so this is a good thing, but I'm going to just keep that number in mind, because I'm going to share or talk about some of the things that Dr. Lorenz talked about where we are with the budget, just at a very high level, specifically the state. Okay, so here we are, the summary of operating fund results. Okay, net gain, shortfall. So how did we balance the budget, or what sources of fund reserves? You'll recall seeing this. So originally we budgeted that we would need to use reserves in 3.6 million. Okay, just disregarding this for a moment, we did not have to go into reserves as much. That is great news. Great job to the team. Okay, so let me spend a little bit of time on reserve. So the accounting entry, you heard me talk about the GASB, the pension, the OPEB, which stands for other post-employment benefits, all right, and the accrued leave. The journal entry that we needed to do was $6.2 million. All right, some of that is reflected on our financial statements, but in the fund balance portion, or the reserves portion of our AFR, this is where we capture that number. It is from other reserves, okay, so amounts financed in the future. All right, so if you go into the AFR, you will see that specifically broken out. All right, so remember, this is just a non-cash accounting adjustment. We need to recognize that expense. And as of the measurement date, if the market is doing very well, all right, we'll actually see, and when you take a look at the long-term trend, you will see it flip-flop back and forth. Again, to the average layperson, this is very confusing. The intent was to try to give as much information to the reader, but some of the critics would say that this is actually more confusing because no one is setting aside trust funds, okay? And again, we're paying as we're going, okay? But again, it's in the spirit of trying to give the reader all of the information, and also to keep actuaries and accountants fully employed in the marketplace. So we thank the government accounting standard boards for that. Okay, so, all right, so just taking a look at operating fund trends. This right here, the scale, this is in thousands. So we are an approximately $80 million budget. And the main thing here is just to look at the trends. And you can see the blue is our compensation. All right, so as a percentage of our total operating budget, we're looking at about the same. Again, the scale in here is hard to see because the numbers of revenue haven't changed all that much, okay? Again, much better than where we were, but again, this is just in a snapshot. Since we're in the service industry, it would make sense that compensation is the highest. All right, you guys have seen this slide before. This here is our breakout of our operating fund reserves. Okay, this is the statutorily required 5%, the 4.5 million here. Okay, this is the designated portion of the reserves, and I have a slide on that breaks it out. For the total reserves in Fund 1 of 8.9 million, almost $9 million. Okay, just going through to now taking that 8.9 or approximately $9 million, just breaking it out into the various buckets. Okay, you can see that this is the prior year. Here are the changes. And the main thing is this year, we did not need to do the transfer from Fund 1 to reserves to balance the budget. Okay, remember the hard work that we talked about, the reduction of expenses and where we came with revenue being flat. All right, so our stabilization dollars are about 3 million. We see that increase here. All right, so I'm going to spend just a little bit more time to add what Dr. Lorenz was saying about what we're looking at budgetarily and what we'll be presenting to you. But the main thing is that the $3 million here, we are looking to use a portion of this to help us brace for what we're anticipating to be a mid-year budget reduction after the election, when at least that's all what the tea leaves are saying right now. So we know that the governor's holdback of 6% for all state agencies, including the Florida Department of Education, which is at least administratively what we're housed under, that holdback is $2.8 million specifically for us. Okay, but there has been some messaging potentially of an at the state level, at the state agency level, there need to do budget exercises for 8.5% and 10%. Okay, so that range again from 6% to 10% in state appropriations is 2.8 million or $4.6 million. All right, that's the range of state appropriations. And then Dr. Morgan and the Strategic Enrollment Management Team, we've also done some sensitivity analysis of where we think what the range could be for enrollment. And let me find those numbers here. So the range of the shortfall for enrollment could be flat, okay, fingers crossed, best case scenario, or realistically, it could be anywhere from 2.8 million in the best case scenario to the worst case scenario of another 10% throughout the entire year of 4.6 million. Okay, so again, just taking averages or a middle number just for simplicity's sake is we could be looking at a reduction for this year, again, with state appropriations enrollment of just under $7 million, about 6.7. So again, with this $3 million in stabilization, using a portion of that to help us get to that target. Again, the only piece that we know right now is the 6% budget holdback and where we are currently for the fall term. Okay, so just wanted to share at least some of the thinking that Dr. Lorenz and the executive team are thinking about, and also working with the various governing or the Strategic Enrollment Management Group on where we are and trying to anticipate, again, or scry from the crystal ball where we're going to be. Okay, so this is the Fund 1 operating. I'm going to go through the other funds that we also budget. So results of operations. Again, so this is the actual expenses. You can see here, just looking at federal grants, the bulk of this obviously is the CARES Act dollars. Remember, we received about 8.7 million, 8.6 million of that, and also some NSF funds or NSF grants. All right, the reason for the difference is as of June 30th, this is the amount that we actually spent, just under $4 million. All right, we continue to spend those monies and cover institutional aid qualified expenses, and also continuing to give the students emergency grant aid. And again, the three categories here: student activity fees, state grants, and foundation other. Here is the same, here is the fund balance, different presentation and a pie chart: student activities fee, the dollar amount and the percentage of the fund balance. Okay, ending fund balance in total is 736,000. You'll notice that the grants, there is not a fund balance. We cannot sit and hold federal funds nor state funds for that matter. So you can see it's only $29,000. These are reimbursable grants. Now let's go ahead and switch gears. We talked about Fund 2. All right, Fund 3 auxiliaries. Okay, this is the overall, again, same format and presentation that you're accustomed to seeing with the budget. The three main auxiliary operations, again, this is Fund 3. The bookstore, rental of facilities, and food vending. All right, the main takeaways here is that they are a significant portion for us to be able to supplement college operations. And I got a pie chart coming up that talk about the use of funds, but remember, and this was talked about during the budget, the majority of the year, especially for facility rentals and then bookstore and food and vending, was when we had quote unquote normal operations with students utilizing services, each of these renting facilities, our community partners at least, and then also the bookstore. So when we bring back the revised budget based upon the action from the legislature, we will be updating those forecasts, and we'll have more time in the current fiscal year to help us inform what the true estimate could be. Okay, so here's a pie chart that talks about the uses of funds. All right, hospitality and promotion. So this is things that we are not allowed to cover under Florida statute, such as food products, employee service awards, some other things. So we use our auxiliary Fund 3 revenue. Technology refresh. This is a critical part for our tech refresh program for instructional classrooms and also instructional technology and the academic support faculty and staff areas. And then finally, another big component, almost 1/3, is tuition and scholarships. So for example, employee independent fee waivers, some of the homeschool dual enrollment textbooks we have to use. We choose to use auxiliary Fund 3s to provide this statutorily required service, but also an important service or source of funds to our students. Okay, wrapping up, at least the funds, the Fund 7, the plant fund, which is the construction funds. The main takeaway here is carry where our balances are, the dollar amounts that we have spent on projects here. Okay, this is the source of funds that come in. Capital improvement fees, of course, some things related to license tags. This is statutory as well. And then also some local grants. Some of it is interest, again, on what we're allowed to claim interest on. Total resources available, $23 million. You can see what we spent it on. The balance here of $12.3 million, but we also have encumbrances. As you may imagine, construction projects, they normally cross fiscal years and sometimes can take a while. Oh, some of this also here, yeah, is the insurance proceeds for Building G, which I'll be talking about a little bit later here in the board packet and be seeking your approval on design and build firms. Okay, so this is where we are right now on balance of uncommitted fees as of the end of the fiscal year. All right, and the last slide that I have outside the financials, you will see a comparison, or yeah, there'll be comparative numbers. There'll be a column for the Seminole State College Florida Foundation, all right, referred to as our DSO. These are just some things that we like to share with the board. Let me go to my notes. I have some dollar amounts on the return. So this is the college support of the foundation, all right, 688,000. This amount is in thousands. All right, so this is actually the foundation support of the college. So for each dollar that we invest to help the foundation, all right, and again, for allowed reasons under statute, we receive $4.24 from the foundation for each dollar of support that we give to them. And again, thank you to Dr. John Gillen and all the members of the foundation board and the staff, again, for continuing to support the college. And then also, I would be very remiss if I didn't thank Judy Cooper and her team for, again, the great work on getting the financials together. And again, looking forward to another perfect audit, Judy. So the gauntlet has been thrown, no pressure. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the AFR. It does not need your approval. But again, as you saw in the board cover agenda item. It's part of just, again, the college's commitment and Dr. Lorenz's and the team's commitment to help you execute your fiduciary duty serving on the board.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? No? Okay. Good job, Joe. Thank you very much. All right. We can take up the categorical consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. On to item 7. Assume that's you again, Joe. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, let me, all right, I'm trying to get my notes together. I'll switch quickly. All right, so thank you, Cheryl, for bringing up the item for the design and build contract. All right, so this is the Fine Arts Center. All right, the one that has the wonderful sinkhole. All right, so what we're presenting for the board's approval today is RFP or RFQ rather, request for qualifications 19-20-13 for design and build services for G building on the Sanford Lake Mary campus. So in May of 2020, again, I'm on page 241. We legally advertised the RFQ. We sent it to the 40 pre-qualified contractor firms that were have been board approved. 5 firms submitted complete responses. The selection committee, again, I'm just hitting the highlights of the board agenda item. Selection committee completed its review and evaluation process of the written proposals on July 13th. Those 3 of the 5 firms that were shortlisted made oral presentations and were interviewed on August 10th. Upon completion of the presentation and the interviews, the selection committee scored the three of the following shortlisted firms. I'm going to present them in the order of the ranking. First being the highest ranking. Core Construction Services of Florida LLC was number 1. Charles Perry Partners Incorporated was number 2, and Ward Smith Incorporated was number 3. You'll see a chart that has the total of the written qualification as well as the presentation and interview scores in the board packet on page 242. The names of it's just ranked alphabetically according to the name of the firm. Okay, so request that the board and the staff recommends and request that the board approve the firms and their rankings in the order presented, and also authorize the president or designee to negotiate and execute a contract starting with the top ranked firm in ranked order as recommended by staff. Be happy to answer any items, any questions that you may have on the item, and also request the approval and authorization.
Any questions for Joe? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the firms, their rankings recommended by staff?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Also, we'll take up the second. Authorize the president designee to negotiate and execute a contract starting with the top ranked firm in rank order as recommended by staff. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Excellent. So the next item is our key performance indicators. You will recall last month during our workshop, we presented a revised set of KPIs to you based on discussion with the board in November 2019. Every November, we review the key performance indicators with you. So this item shows the current and the revised key performance indicators, a sample of the current data related to each of those indicators, and then sort of a summary slide. So I will turn it over to Mark, who can quickly review this with you, but this is pretty much what you saw last month at the workshop with a revision to the foundation indicator. Take it away, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lorenz, and good afternoon all. Trustees, it's always a pleasure. Yes, this is very similar to what you saw last month, but I did some minor tweaks based on your comments and suggestions from last month. So I'll just highlight those tweaks, but then present them for your review and approval.
Yes, Scott, we were happy to see, I think, Scott, it was you that suggested that we look at outlying institutions, and you'll be interested to see the results.
Awesome.
Yeah, that we really dove into the data and found some anomalies that, yes, we're recommending that we take those out and set a standard as far as our top tier benchmark. And as we pointed out last time, here are your current indicators, and we're suggesting that we revise to the indicators on the next slide. So we would transition to these 9 KPIs overall. And there are actually 3 different things we have to consider. Number 1 is the request to approve the proposed KPIs. We'll come back to that in a minute. To weigh each indicator equally, and then, as noted, to waive Section 5 of the President's contract and to execute an addendum. And Dr. Lorenz, just my understanding, they would need to consider each of these as a separate motion.
I believe so.
When we get through all this, okay. All right, good. All right, we'll come back around to that. Yeah, let me move fairly quickly through each indicator and show you the adjustments around the top tier benchmark that we suggested, because we're recommending that we that you adopt these 9 recommended KPIs and adopt this top tier benchmark as the performance target each term. As we noted last time, we can get the results from the Florida college schools on 7 of the 9 indicators. And when we rank order them, top to bottom or best to worst, we can see what the 7th school is, and whether it's us or not, and if we're in that top 7, putting us in the top tier. We're also recommending, and you'll see within the details, that we set some criteria, some standards for excluding certain schools that appear to be statistical anomalies, typically due to their small size. Very few graduates, very few transfers, so they do tend to distort the numbers. Yeah, let's look at a few examples and you'll see just what I mean. First recommended indicator is the percent of high school graduates that transition to Seminole State. We do get this indicator from all other Florida colleges, and as we dove into the details across the 5 years, we didn't see any school that was an outlier. There weren't any real anomalies here. Our numbers look pretty good. You can see they are declining. We're at 31%, and we are consistently ranked up in those, or right there with the top tiers, and well above the statewide average. So we didn't see any adjustments needed for this indicator. Next slide, please. But here's one that we saw we should adjust or check for anomalies each year. The Math Gateway course completion rate, the percentage of students that earn an A, B, or C in the course, they're the small schools that have fewer than 2,000 Math Gateway enrollments do have anomalies. They tend to swing around. Sometimes they're up here in the top tier, sometimes they're not. So we're recommending that we exclude schools with 2,000 enrollments, Math Gateway enrollments. We typically have about 8,000 enrollments in these categories. So we would want to compare ourselves typically with schools that have at least that number. And you see the specific exclusions. And when I take those schools out of the numbers, let me explain the charts. The top green bar is what you saw last time. If we included those schools, that's what you get as the top tier benchmark. When we exclude those schools, it does tend to bring the top tier benchmark down. That's the solid green bar. The solid blue bar is our actual result, and then the gold bar is the Florida college system average. So we're just below the top tier benchmark, but you can see we kind of reverted back to the average this last time. I also suggest that we weight this according to class enrollments. When you look at the 4 Math Gateway courses, there's a big difference in the number of students actually taking each of these courses. A lot more students in college algebra, a lot of students in statistics, but very few in college math and liberal arts math. Liberal arts math tends to have a pretty high completion rate. So we're recommending apples to apples that we compare this indicator according to a weighted by enrollment as well. And that's what you see here. Next, any question on the adjusted gateway? Pardon me, the adjusted benchmark. All right, similar story here on the English gateway course completion rate. Schools with fewer than 1,000 English enrollments tend to distort the benchmark, and you see a very similar pattern here. The top one is the non-adjusted top tier benchmark. The solid green is the adjustment with those schools taken out. The yellow is the Florida College System average, and you can see we're below that in our English gateway course completion rate. So we have some work to do in this, but we think that's the right way to go, is to look at the adjusted and then the average as well. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a real quick question. Dr. Morgan, why are we looking at, and maybe it's because of the total number of students that enroll, but in math, you were taking the outlier of 2,000 enrollees, and English, you were taking 1,000. Is there that big of a delta in the incoming students in math versus English, and what is the average?
Yeah, that is a great question. The math, I just, again, it's somewhat arbitrary, but I just saw that the schools with fewer than 2,000 math enrollments tended to have what I would call extraordinarily high math gateway course completion rates. And they varied what they offered in terms of the liberal arts math, etc. And there are 4 courses included in the math gateway components. So if you have fewer than 2,000 enrollments, that's really a small school, not offering what I would consider a proportionate share of math courses. The English Gateway, there is only one course here, CNC 1101. Every school is offering that. So the anomalies seem to be schools with fewer than 1,000 enrollments. Sometimes they were in the top tier, sometimes they weren't. So there just wasn't a whole lot of consistency in those. So I just took out the schools with fewer than 1,000 English enrollments.
Okay, I didn't know if there was any exact cutoff of total number of student enrollments that did it. I just didn't want to give us any false sense of security in either math or English with such a big delta of what we considered an outlier, but I'll go with what you say.
Yeah, the schools remaining in the top tier, I would say were fairly comparable to us. You see what tends to get excluded are the really small schools where their results will vary year to year quite a bit. And so they do tend to distort the top end average when they're included. So you have these really small schools just generating, 500 English enrollments with a 90% pass rate. So again, that's the recommendation, is simply take those out when they appear. We recommend we keep the student retention indicator, although the definition varies a little bit. The way it's measured and reported in the accountability, in the statewide accountability numbers. You see ours steadily going up. It's the big blue line up around 69, and we are right there in the top tier. I didn't see any need for adjustments in this, even among the small schools. Their retention rates tend, again, not to vary that much. They're fairly consistent, and we're well above the average too. Next slide, please. Student graduation rates. These include students in both degree and certificate programs. So the numbers are fairly adequate. I didn't see any anomalies that I needed to exclude, and you can see over time that ours has steadily improved, as has the benchmark and the statewide average. We are there in the top tier. And again, just to clarify, these are student graduation rates within a 200% time frame of the expected time to complete the degree. So 4 years for an associate degree, typically 2 years for a short-term certificate. And this is all inclusive of all those programs. For the students, AA graduates who finish and then transfer into the universities, the percentage with a 3.0 GPA or higher, the small schools with fewer than 100 transfer students do tend to distort the top end of this indicator as well. So I removed them. You see that's the solid green bar. And we tend to follow that trend, but we're below that top tier benchmark right now, and even fell below the statewide average this past year. So again, the recommendation to exclude those really small schools with few transfers. Vocational placement rates, small schools with fewer than 200 graduates tend to distort this, and so I excluded them, and that brings the benchmark down. And you can see we follow that trend, but we've got a little bit of work to do to move ourselves to the top tier, but we are above the statewide average. And then for the foundation return on investment, this was one you suggested. I left the external contributions to the foundation in there in the lighter font so you could see it, but we're recommending that we go to something like the support for Seminole State, what the foundation is giving us back in the form of student scholarships, institutional support, mini grants to faculty, those types of things, divided by the in-kind contributions we return to the foundation, running about $600,000 to $700,000 a year. When we divide the foundation support by the in-kind contributions, we consider that the return on investment. What's Seminole State getting back as far as dollars received versus dollars given to the foundation? And that has steadily grown over time. You see, in the most recent year was $4 back for every dollar we give to the foundation, a nice return on investment. And we're recommending that we retain a target of the 5-year rolling average. Over the past 5 years, you average out those numbers along the bottom, and it's currently 3.24. And then grant funding, we recommend that we keep that measure pretty much as is, that it would be a 5-year moving target, a 5-year rolling average for their target, according to whatever they received in grant awards this past year. So the summary looks something like this. We're proposing 9 key performance indicators, and I just summarized on here for your information, the most recent result compared to the average and compared to the adjusted top tier benchmark. So see, we do pretty well with the average, but then we do have some challenges and some work to do in the comparison to the proposed targets. I'll pause there and ask for any questions, comments.
So I'll just remind you that these are not the final outcomes for this year, because we will bring the most recent data in November to the board. So we're using the most recent data that we have at this time, but not the final results for this year. And as Mark indicated, we're also suggesting that each of these be weighted equally, which is what we did previously with the prior set of key performance indicators. So any questions, concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lorenz. I'm glad you clarified that, because yes, we're just now getting the results for this current year. So right, we'll have an update for you in November based on the most recent data if we adopt it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Morgan?
I guess I have one additional question on the foundation line item. You had the FCS average as non-applicable. No, we were on the right page, Cheryl. Okay, so on the FCA average, you had non-applicable, but then on the FCS adjusted top tier benchmark, it's a 4.0. So I don't know how you could get that adjusted top tier benchmark if we don't know what the FCS average is. If you don't know what the average is, how do you get the top tier?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's the slash target component. Yeah, you're right. We don't have a top tier benchmark to compare. So I just included it in the target column.
Okay, thank you.
So that's our self-imposed target.
Right.
Good question.
Competing with ourselves.
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
and now that from your question, I just realized I have the wrong number in there. The target should be 3.24, the rolling average.
Right, that would have been my add-on, because you said we were going to shoot for a 5-year rolling average. So
So that's a typo.
Yeah,
That's why it was
my mistake.
misleading to me when I saw the 4.0. I thought we did get some statewide numbers. So thank you.
Yeah, we don't get that level of detail from every college's foundation.
Same holds true for the grant
grants
as well. Is that the right number? And 3.72 million?
Yes, that would be the 5-year rolling average.
Okay.
Well, for the past 5 years, and then with this year's update, the number will shift slightly.
I'm going to suggest that we hold the CARES Act funding out of that total because it will be out of whack forever.
That's another anomaly, right?
Well, Dr. Lorenz, that's a good point, and that's another follow-up question I had. I know we chose a 5-year rolling average, but in this environment, it's kind of hard to look at anything in such a vast length of 5 years. Is it a 3-year rolling average, or Dr. Morgan, is this industry standard within higher ed that we only do comparative analysis on 5 years? Because I just think we're so rapidly changing the environment of higher ed that 5-year might be stale dated data. I don't know.
Well, the only two that we're using the 5-year rolling average for is the foundation funding and grant funding, and they tend to be less volatile. Grant
Except
funding.
for this year.
Pardon?
Except for this year.
Well, but we didn't compete for the CARES Act funding. To call it a grant is really, it's a different kind of grant. So I would say these are grants that we competed for. So the NSF grant would be a good example of a recent grant that we were awarded, as opposed to the CARES Act funding, which was just bestowed upon us really because of our enrollment. John Gillen, are you trying to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say that going back historically, it was, hey, what did you raise last year? Let's raise more the next year. And then it became a 3-year rolling average. The reason it's a rolling average, it kind of coincided with our 5-year average and our scholarship distribution as well. We took a rolling 20-quarter average in terms of our scholarship distribution. So we applied that same 5-year point to the way we did our funding as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you, John. I recall we at one point the trustees did adopt a 3-year rolling average, but with the volatility that we see year to year, we found that average was really or that target was really swinging pretty wildly.
Right,
so
and
we
historically,
5 years kind of smooths it out a little bit.
Right, and historically, looking at the return on investment ratio going back 10, 11 years, it was a little over 1, and it's been at 1, then a 2, then solely 2, then got to 3. The last 2 years, we've been successful at getting it above 4, but there might be some anomalies, to your point, Dr. Calderon, where we might dip below that 4. But again, our goal is to try to return a considerable amount more than what we're using in terms of resources from the college.
And you do it so well.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, ready to vote? We have three items. We need to approve the KPIs as attached. So do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimous. And now we have, we need to take a motion to weight each indicator equally for the purposes of the president's performance-based incentives in her employment agreement. A motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And third, for the academic year of 2020-2021, the president recommends waiving section contract for employment, which we approved on April 16th of 18, performance-based incentives, and execute an addendum to the employment agreement to that effect. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Motion a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I'll be
Thank
back
you.
in
Thanks,
November.
Mark.
See you then.
Awesome. Okay. Next up is the trustee self-evaluation.
So we got the results from our self-evaluation, and they are displayed here so that you can see where the 4 board members, collectively put their assessment in terms of the items on the self-evaluation. And then there's also some comments in the question section. So it's here for your review and for our discussion. If there are any improvements that we can make to the board meetings or board communication or anything else, we certainly want to hear that. So the floor is yours. And thank you very much for participating. This is really great.
Questions, comments? No, I think we're good. We're all self-assessed and self-aware now. Thank you.
I think there'd be a lot more to talk about. There'd be a lot more to talk about if we were all over the map, but we appear to be pretty consistent.
Yeah, I think so.
In most areas.
And the desire for a 5th board member is clear. We will work on that.
Something that's not quite in our control, but we'll continue to work, right?
Yes, we can keep reminding.
That's right. Okay. So do we need to approve that, or let's see,
No, I think it's just for our discussion.
Just for information.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So something we do have to approve is the next agenda item, which is change orders. And I think that might be Joe again.
Thank you, Chair Howitt. Hello again, everyone. All right, and thank you, Cheryl, for getting us up, having agenda item number 8 on your screen. Okay, so some more change orders, numbers 8 through 10 for the board's ratification. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go to my notes as well, and if any questions come up, yeah, please feel free to interrupt me. I won't be able to see hand waving or anything as I'm looking at some of my notes on the screen as well. Okay, so the actual description, the background and the current status, of course, is leading up to the actual action items, which is on page 268. Oh, and thank you, Cheryl, you have it there. So change order number 8 is for the actual construction cost for the modification of the athletic laundry facilities. You recall last month, change order number 2, that was actually for the design fees. The project is within budget. It is being funded from the owner's contingency amount. So it's not, we're not asking for an increase to the overall budget. Change order number 9, you'll recall from the prior month, last month was the design fees change order. All right, so here is the actual construction cost of the fire rated wall. And again, just to refresh the board's memory, that originally the chief building official said that we needed to, or recommended that we needed to get additional sprinklers and additional enhancements to the fire alarm control system. Okay, the design firm came up with an acceptable alternative that saved us substantial dollars to the project. That was more importantly also acceptable to the chief building official. And this is an increase here due to construction cost of just over $27,000. And then finally, change order number 10. This is to extend the construction schedule, the substantial completion date to now December 8th of 2020. There is no additional cost increases related to this change order. Part of it is related to the actual, some of the building infrastructure was delayed, and we had that confirmed. And then also some other changes that were discussed is related to the other difference to, again, extend the substantial completion date by 98 days to December 8th. So the total construction amount has changed from just over $35,000 in total, the new total of $4,897,730.72. And I request the board's ratification of change orders number 8 through number 10 on Building H at the Sanford Lake Mary campus. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the item.
Any questions for Joe? No?
So moved.
And a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Joe, I think you're officially off the hook. Thanks. Okay, next up, foundation update. Trustee Calderon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm excited to share that we just recently had our foundation board meeting on September 15th. It was our first meeting of this academic year. And our new chair of the foundation board is alumnus Larry Campbell, a client advisor at Seaside Bank. Many of you may recognize Larry because he was on the selection committee that helped bring Dr. Lorenz to Seminole State. So he's got a great track record of making good decisions, right? We welcomed 13 new board members and are already well into planning for the 2021 Dream Gala. This year's board theme is Unmasking Your Potential and recognizing that behind every mask is a story. So we'll actually have an evening that will enjoy wearing masks for once, I guess. Also at the meeting, we awarded the fiscal year 2020 Barbara A. Miller Chairperson's Award to former Seminole State professor, retiree Kay Delk, for her outstanding service. While we couldn't celebrate with her in person, we were still able to surprise her during the virtual meeting and hand-delivered the award to her later that day. This is Kay's second time receiving this award. The first time was back in 2008. So it's great to see her longevity of support with Seminole State College. On Saturday, August 29th, the Foundation for Seminole State kicked off a week-long giving campaign for Rally and Raise. The week-long campaign highlighted the great work happening at Seminole State and has surpassed the original $6,000 goal by raising $8,658. Bravo. Alumni Leadership Chair Josh Murdoch hosted a personal page for the scholarship established in his father's name and raised nearly $3,000 all on his own. The Center for Fine and Performing Arts was able to raise $1,620, and the planetarium was able to raise $715. Hashtag Rally and Raise Your Voice Facebook album encouraged the community to participate by liking a picture representing different scholarships and funds at the college. The School of Academic Foundations won with 75 likes and will receive a $250 match from the foundation. They hosted the Rally and Raise drive-through event to safely distribute t-shirts and had a great time seeing the faculty and staff drive through. This effort has us on track with last year with 209 current blue and gold donors, equaling almost 20% participation rate. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Great job, Dr. Calderon.
Thank you.
13 new members, outstanding. Wonderful. Look forward to it. So we talked a little bit about the ACCT and voting. I'm happy to do that. If no one else is going to be participating, I'm happy to go ahead and take care of our vote if need be, as the chair. And if you need to register one of us, if no one else is able to do it, I'm happy to. Or as Dr. Calderon said, someone should take good notes and share them back with us so we can at least hear some of the great things that are going on and have those shared. Okay. All right, Dr. Lorenz, anything else for good of you? Trustees, are we all good? All right, great meeting. Thank you all. And Lisa, I think we're done. This meeting is adjourned.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.